same story we've had multiple times this season, 9 in fact, for Sawalich himself, just in the main ARCA Menards Series. Doesn't even count the East and West Series races that he's run, and 11 total if you want to throw in Tanner Gray's 2 victories in that Joe Gibbs Racing number 18 car. Andres Perez finished in 6th, looked like he might have had a shot at finally picking up a win at the end there, did a little half spin, got going again, ultimately recovered to a 6th place finish. But he is, at the end of the day, your first winless champion in the ARCA Menards Series since Bob Dodder in 1980. But the caveat there is that there were only 9 races on the ARCA schedule back then. And if you want to think of some other winless champions we've had, Austin Dillon did it in the Nationwide Series, now the Xfinity Series in 2013. But of course, he had 28 of his 33 races won by Cup Series regulars. And Matt Crafton, of course, did it in the Truck Series in 2019, but he also had the advantage of being able to expose the loopholes in the playoff system where so much of an emphasis is put on winning these races. He only did what he had to do to advance through every round without winning a race, and then was the highest finishing driver in the championship for there. So he had the benefit of being able to use the playoff system to his advantage. More power to him, but at the same time, really puts this winless championship season into perspective here. And then you couple that with the fact that it wasn't just Perez, it was every full-time ARCA driver. None of them visited victory lane one time this season because we had so many races won by either the Gibbs 18 or the Pinnacle 28. Of course, the majority of those with Sawalich or Connor Zilic. A couple of Venturini part-timers broke through on the super speedways and on the dirt as well, but those were all your winners this season. We did not have a single full-timer visit victory lane. So first, Brandon, let's give Perez his flowers here. What's your reaction to him winning the championship, and what do you think his future prospects might be in NASCAR in the top 3 divisions? But at the same time, what do this season's final standings here for ARCA say about the current state of the series, where not a single full-timer in 20 races got to victory lane once?
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to Andres Perez for getting this championship and making history there. Only Bob Dodder able to do it in 1980, and Andres Perez playing his cards right. He gets his flowers. First winless champion since then. But this does show that underlying issue that we've talked about so much with ARCA is not having the ability to let your ARCA main drivers be able to win races, and all the great talent. I mean, Connor Zilic is a great talent. William Sawalich, great talent. But they come in and have the money that a lot of these other, let's be real, a lot of these other ARCA teams don't, and are able to come out and they've got it figured out. They've got it down to a science, and they have the finances to back it up. And it's not always money that ends up bringing the win. There's a lot of talent behind those drivers too that also don't really have much business being in the ARCA Menards Series, but there they are. And that's where you can get instances like this, where even without a playoff format, Andres Perez can win the championship because he's the next one eligible. That's not someone that has come down from above to take in and rack in wins.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if we have to be honest with ourselves here, if William Sawalich or Connor Zilic, Connor Zilic, I should say, were both old enough to run the full schedule this year, we probably would have gotten a pretty entertaining championship battle of those two just trading off wins here. But there is a minimum age requirement for some of these larger tracks on the ARCA schedule, but you have to be 18, and they didn't turn 18 until late this year. So ultimately, not only do they have a disadvantage of missing several races, but the way ARCA's point system works is you get a 50-point bonus after 5 consecutive races run. So that's 200 points that they missed out on that the full-timers were granted here. But even then, if you give Sawalich just the points bonus here, just looking at the final standings here, it looks like 689. So that would be 889. He still would have had enough to finish third in points if you just give him the full-time bonus, despite the fact that he still didn't compete in 6 races here. I would think over those 6 starts, he could have made up to roughly 70 points or whatever it is that he would still have to go to catch Andres Perez there for a title. And Connor Zilic, probably the same way. Zilic didn't even run as many races as Sawalich did this season. But still, like you said, it's not, obviously those two drivers have a lot of talent, and they're both going to, we think Sawalich has is on that Xfinity Series path for next year. Heavy rumors that that's going to be the next step in his development ladder, just as we know it is for Connor Zilic. But, again, I don't know if there's necessarily anything that can be done according to the letter of the law, I remember Chesapeake Diecast did a YouTube video, I think going back even just to last year, talking about the dominance of the Joe Gibbs Racing number 18 car. But it's kind of just a matter of being against the spirit of the law to have that car in this series, and with all the funding behind Zilich and Chevrolet and Pinnacle as well. Even the Venturinis of the world can only break through on the super speedways and a couple of other races here, and their full timers are struggling to win races. Rev's full time drivers, they came close a couple of times. A pair of second place finishes for both Andres Perez and LeVar Scott. So if things had worked out slightly differently, certainly feasible that they could have gotten to victory lane at some point this year. So it's not like they're completely in a different zip code on a weekly basis, but on most weekends, you look at the results and see that if Sawalich goes out and just hits his marks, or if Zilich goes out and hits his marks every week, there's really very little that the rest of the field was able to do this year to stop them from parking it in victory lane. And because they're not competing for a championship, we have a situation where you look at the top of the standings and you can't find one single race this year where those drivers were able to go to victory lane. I think that's unfortunate for the series, and really unfortunate for everybody involved, because in the case of Andres Perez, I think he's going to have some opportunities that come out of this, and we hope that he can make the most of them. But I think it does make a little bit more of a statement when you can show your potential sponsors, videos of you doing burnouts or celebrating in victory lane, and it's unfortunate that he didn't get any of those this year. I guess you could say he probably had a handful of class wins, if we want to say the 1828 were in a class of their own, which again, I think some weekends that was true. Some weekends probably less true than others. I think, again, like I said, Perez had a couple of opportunities this year, just came up a little bit short.
I think road courses, that argument's a little more valid.
Sure. Yeah,
especially with Zilich.
Yeah, Zilich for sure. Watkins Glen, winning on his debut was proof of that. But again, I think when the gap is this large, when you look at the stark contrast of how the part-timers have dominated, how the only Cup-affiliated car in the field has dominated, winning over 50% of the races this year. I was hoping that it would be a different story by the time we got to this week's episode, that we could be talking about at least one race where we had Perez finally break through, or LeVar Scott finally break through, or even somebody from Venturini like a Chris Wright or Tony Brininger or Amber Balkin. But we just didn't see that this year, and I think that, again, I don't know what the solution is, and I know that sometimes that's not necessarily a great look to be complaining about a problem without being able to propose a solution. But I guess that's probably an even greater frustration for me. It's just that you look at these results and you have to think, can we please get a full timer that's able to break into victory lane at some point next year? But I don't know how we necessarily do that unless it's putting Sawalich into ARCA. He'd be eligible to run for a championship next year, but I think based on the talent that he's shown, he's probably ready for Xfinity and some more limited truck starts like he's getting right now. I think that's probably a better place for him to be at this point in his career. I don't know that you learn very much by driving, again, the only Cup-affiliated car in the ARCA Menards Series, or only car run by a Cup Series team in the ARCA Series, and just spanking the field 9 times out of whatever it was, I think 14 starts in the main series that he had this year. I don't know. I think you're probably going to get more out of racing against, fellow young drivers and even some veterans in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series rather as well. So again, we think he's on that development path. We'll see when the official announcements come out here, but just a little bit of an unfortunate situation here to have to end our season with the standings looking like that. But again, you take nothing away from the talent that Sawalich has, and the talent that Connor Zilich has, and the talent that Andres Perez has. I think that we certainly can't look at him as though he's a winless champion. He's not going to amount to anything. I think nothing could be further from the truth. I think he's going to get some opportunities that come out of this. I just think his stock would be a little bit higher if he had been able to visit victory lane a couple of times this year. And I think it's unfortunate that it worked out the way it did. That
is unfortunate news, but you know what good news is, though, right? We start the ARCA Series at Daytona on Fox next year.
Yes, well, good to see.
Or is that good news?
Yeah, that is some good news. And we've had this, I think, for the last couple of years. Every race on FS1 or FS2. But the big news, of course, is that the Daytona race will be on Big Fox in 2025. So I'm hoping and praying that we get a race like we did in 2023, and we get a winner like Greg Van Alst for that kind of story to be on network television. I think would be absolutely phenomenal. I think would be a great advertisement and showcase for the series. I hope it's not a situation like it's Talladega 2020 is the one that comes to mind. I don't think it's going to be that bad because I think we'll have a stronger car count for this Daytona race. But I'm certainly hoping for a strong field, and I'm hoping for some good high quality racing because I think that'll put an even greater spotlight on the series here. And again, we'll just echo what Adam says here in chat again. Congrats to Andres Perez on winning the ARCA Racing Championship. And also an interesting fact, Adam, that you bring up there as well, the first Mexican-born driver, and actually I believe first foreign-born driver, period, to win the ARCA Championship as well here. So some history being made over at Rev Racing with Andres Perez there. So congratulations to both of them again here.